G'day legends, we're going to be talking about Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira once again. One of the most favorite conversations for all MMA fans to have. But today we're going to be talking about who has the best legacy in all of combat sports. Who is going to be the greater combat sports athlete when everything is said and done and the history books are finally closed? It seems like the rivalry has come to an end, with Izzy somehow, some reason, going on a world tour to announce that he has finally beaten Poatan one time and the rivalry is dead. But before we get into that, I just want to let everybody know real quickly that for UFC 301 this weekend, we're going to be going live on the channel from the very first fight, all the way from the early prelims, all the way to the end. So if you want to jump in and say hi at any point during that live stream, feel free to come on over and say hi. Maybe during the Urseg fight, who knows, there might be a sick knockout. I'm going to be rooting pretty hard for Urseg. So come and check that out on Saturday night. Now, right into it. I guess one of the biggest things here, talking about this subject here, Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya, legacy, is legacy defined purely by the wins and the losses, right? Is it about that? Because if it is, then, you could say that clearly Israel Adesanya has more title defenses than Alex Pereira, and that's simply the end of that. But I don't think so. I think legacy is something deeper than that. I think surely Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson, especially back in the days when he was El Kukui, not, Grandpa Tony like he is now, but back in the day, surely these athletes are going to leave a long-lasting legacy on the sport. And maybe it's not all about just the championship defenses or the title run. I think that is the true difference here between something like legacy and record, DC went ahead to become a double champ, but John Jones has the record at light heavyweight. There is something that separates legacy and record, and I do think that record is something that gets put into a legacy, but legacy is something more overarching, something bigger, sort of the meta of it all, if you will let me, and you should let me, and I will go on. So if you were to look at just the record, then you would probably jump on the Israel Adesanya bandwagon, say Izzy's got the better record, Israel Adesanya has got the better legacy in combat sports. But when you start to break it down and look at the bigger picture of it all, Alex Pereira, it seems to be only fighting ex-champions, future champions, people with championship names, right? Let's look at it, yeah? He starched Sean Strickland. He starched Israel Adesanya. He starched Jamal Hill. He starched Yuri Prohaska, and he beat Jan Blachowicz in a very competitive fight. On top of that, he is a two-weight champion. And then there are things on top of that as well. When you look at Alex Pereira, he grew up in total poverty with nothing in the favelas, right? And he rised all the way to the top of our sport to the point where he headlined the biggest event in MMA history. And then he headlined the biggest event in MMA history and then put on one of the coolest KOs of all time. Honest to God, if Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje didn't throw down the way that they did, Poatan might go down as one of the coolest looking KOs, right up there with Masvidal against Askren. It was that cool the way that he just shrugged Herb Dean off. He capped that moment, that our sport's biggest event of all time, with one of the coolest moments we're ever going to see. All of that while being 7-1 in the UFC, with 5 of those 7s being championship names. Now, Israel on the other side, right? He does have the defenses, and he did beat that guy Alex one time, but he did lose to a bunch of others as well. And his defenses are not nearly as impressive, are they? The Yoel Romero fight could have gone either way, and it was a very lackluster fight. Whittaker 2 could have gone either way. Cannonier seemed to be a marathon of how far could Izzy run while throwing leg kicks. Israel Adesanya also fought Jan Blachowicz, and he lost that fight pretty clearly as well. He also fought Sean Strickland, and he got beaten up for 25 minutes, beaten up badly for 25 minutes. He nearly got finished in the first round. And while Poatan was on the biggest stage our sport's ever seen, Izzy was on the sidelines, watching. Then not only that, there's also the story of where they came from. Israel Adesanya came from a family with money who had the option to immigrate to New Zealand. Israel Adesanya had the choice to pick between professional dancing or professional combat sports. He knew which direction that he wanted to go in. The UFC saw Israel Adesanya and decided that they were going to start marketing him as one of our superstars. Poatan never got that. It was us, the fans, that raised Poatan to the level that he is now. And now, when all is said and done, when Poatan has got another belt wrapped around his waist, the belt that Israel Adesanya once wanted to claim, Poatan goes ahead and invites him up to continue to compete. But Israel Adesanya has done this world tour and says, no, I beat him once. I don't want to play anymore. Player number one is putting the controller down. And for people out there who do want to say record is everything, again, Alex Pereira is 7-1 in the UFC. Israel Adesanya, I think, is 13-3 in the UFC. I mean, if you doubled Alex Pereira, he'd still be 14-2. He'd still be beating him on the numbers alone. I think if Israel Adesanya wants to bring his rivalry with Alex Pereira to a close, then he can bring it to a close. But when the history books are closed on this rivalry, and this might be one of the best rivalries we've ever seen since Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz, since DC John Jones, this is a phenomenal rivalry. But I do think when the book is closed and we go back and look at it and talk about legacy, talk about everything that went into the rivalry, how Alex Pereira became a multiple champion and in kickboxing as well as the UFC, how he had much more dominant performances than Israel Adesanya did. I think when everything is done and we look back on it, if this is the end of their story, Alex Pereira has got the far better legacy in combat sports than Israel Adesanya does. And for a person with an ego like Israel Adesanya, I don't know how he can let that slide. I'm sure that Israel Adesanya wants to go in there and fight Alex Pereira one more time at light heavyweight. It would be an awesome fight, and I don't think Israel would lose that much stock over it. It's not really his proper weight class. So look at him like he is going ahead and challenging himself and trying to do something more. I think it would be incredibly good for his legacy. But let me know, what do you think down in the comments? Who has the better legacy in combat sports, Israel Adesanya or Alex Pereira? If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit subscribe. And of course, I will see you all on the next one or on Saturday for the fights.